Rita Moreno is 93 years old. She won an Oscar in 1962 for West Side Story, and she's still working. Not just alive, actually working. The woman who danced with Gene Kelly, who knew Marlon Brando, who survived decades of Hollywood's worst typecasting, is still here, still sharp, and still has stories the rest of us will never hear. Old Hollywood feels like a distant dream. Black and white films, studio contracts, stars who seemed untouchable. Most of them are gone now. Elizabeth Taylor, Paul Newman, Katharine Hepburn, all gone. But some remain, not as legends frozen in time, but as real people who watched the entire world transform around them. They remember when movies had no sound, when television was a novelty, when the internet didn't exist. Today we're looking at 23 actors from Hollywood's golden age who are still alive. Some you'll recognize immediately. Others you might have forgotten were even born. But all of them carry memories of a Hollywood that doesn't exist anymore. Let's start with the oldest. Glynis Johns, 101 years old. Glynis Johns is best known for playing Mrs. Banks in Mary Poppins. She sang Sister Suffragette in 1964, and she's the reason that song became an anthem for a generation of children who didn't yet understand feminism but heard its echo in her voice. But decades before Julie Andrews flew in with her umbrella, Glynis was already a British film star. She appeared in dozens of movies starting in the 1930s, working with everyone from Fred Astaire to Dirk Bogarde. Born in South Africa in 1923 to Welsh parents, who were both actors, Glynis grew up on stage. Her father, Mervyn Johns, was a character actor who appeared in Dead of Night, one of the most influential British horror films ever made. Her mother, Alice Steele Payne, was a concert pianist. Performance wasn't something Glynis chose. It was simply what her family did. What most people don't know is that Stephen Sondheim wrote the song Send in the Clowns specifically for her. He crafted the melody around her distinctive, breathy voice, creating one of the most famous songs in musical theater history. She originated the role of Desiree in A Little Night Music on Broadway in 1973 when she was already 50 years old. The show won 6 Tony Awards, and Glynis's performance became legendary among theater people, even if the general public never saw it. She was nominated for an Academy Award only once, for The Sundowners in 1960, playing an Australian woman struggling to keep her family together. She lost to Shirley Jones in Elmer Gantry. Decades later, critics would argue she deserved to win, but by then it didn't matter. Oscar or not, she had built a career that spanned 7 decades. Glynis retired from acting in the late 1990s. She lives quietly now, away from the cameras, in assisted living. At 101, she's seen the entire evolution of cinema, from silent films her father was in to streaming services she'll never understand. She outlived the studio system, outlived most of her co-stars, and outlived the version of Hollywood that made her famous. She's the oldest living Academy Award nominee, a title she never asked for but holds nonetheless. Eva Marie Saint, 99 years old. In 1954, Eva Marie Saint made her film debut opposite Marlon Brando in On the Waterfront. She was 30 years old, a relative unknown who had spent years doing live television in New York. Elia Kazan, the director, saw something in her, a vulnerability, an intelligence, a face the camera loved. She played Edie Doyle, a woman caught between loyalty to her brother and love for a man complicit in his death. She won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress that same year. Brando won Best Actor. The film won Best Picture. It was a clean sweep, and Eva's career should have exploded. But Hollywood didn't know what to do with her. She wasn't glamorous in the way studios wanted. She was serious, thoughtful, more interested in character than celebrity. 4 years later, Alfred Hitchcock cast her in North by Northwest. She played the cool, mysterious blonde opposite Cary Grant, a woman with secrets and motivations that unfolded slowly across the film's runtime. Hitchcock was notorious for his obsession with controlling his leading ladies, treating them like objects to be posed and photographed. But Eva later said he treated her with unexpected respect. He designed her entire wardrobe for the film himself, spending hours with the costume designer to get every detail right. He wanted her to look sophisticated, untouchable, and just dangerous enough to keep the audience guessing. After that, her career became a mix of films, television, and stage work. She appeared in Exodus with Paul Newman, Nothing in Common with Tom Hanks, and dozens of TV movies that no one remembers. She never stopped working. In 2006, she appeared in Superman Returns as Clark Kent's mother, a small role that connected her to a new generation. In 2012, she had a brief part in Winter's Tale, a fantasy film that flopped but gave her another paycheck. She's been married to the same man, Jeffrey Hayden, since 1951. They had 2 children, She avoided scandal, avoided controversy, and built a quiet life away from Hollywood's chaos. In interviews, she's spoken about the importance of family, about choosing roles carefully, about not letting fame consume her. Today, at 99, she's one of the last living connections to Brando, to Hitchcock, and to a version of Hollywood where movie stars were still mysteries. She's outlived most of her co-stars. Cary Grant died in 1986, Brando in 2004, Hitchcock in 1980. She remembers them all, carries their stories, and probably won't tell most of them before she's gone. Dick Van Dyke, 99 years old, Dick Van Dyke is still dancing. That's the most unbelievable part. At 99 years old, the man who tap danced with penguins in Mary Poppins can still move. He's appeared in talk shows recently, doing little shuffles and soft shoe routines, grinning that same grin he's had since 1961, when the Dick Van Dyke Show first aired. He was never supposed to be a movie star. He was a television comedian, best known for playing Rob Petrie on his sitcom, a role that won him 3 Emmy Awards. But Walt Disney saw something in him and cast him as Bert, the chimney sweep, in Mary Poppins. His Cockney accent was famously terrible. British people mocked it for decades. Dick himself admitted it was awful, joking that he based it on the dialect coach Disney hired, who apparently didn't know what a real Cockney accent sounded like either. But somehow it worked because the character's joy overpowered everything else. When Dick danced across the rooftops of London, when he sang Chim Chim Cher-ee with a smile that looked completely genuine, audiences didn't care about the accent. They cared about the energy, the optimism, the sense that this man was having the time of his life. He kept working through the decades, moving between film and television with ease. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in 1968, The Comic in 1969. Then, television again with Diagnosis Murder, which ran for 8 seasons in the 1990s, and gave him a second career when most actors his age had retired. The show was formulaic, predictable, and beloved by its audience, most of whom had grown up watching him in the 1960s. He's been married twice. His first marriage to Margie Willett lasted 36 years and produced 4 children. After their divorce, he dated Michelle Triola for over 30 years, but never remarried until after her death. In 2012, at age 86, he married Arlene Silver, a makeup artist 46 years younger than him. The age gap raised eyebrows, but Dick didn't care. He's spoken openly about finding love again, about refusing to let age dictate how he lives. He's also been candid about his struggles with alcoholism. In his autobiography, he described years of drinking that nearly destroyed him, a secret he kept hidden while playing America's favorite dad on television. He got sober in the 1970s and has stayed sober ever since, crediting his recovery with saving his life. At 99, he's proof that some people are just built differently. He's lost friends, buried co-stars, survived addiction, and kept going. In interviews, he talks about staying active, about gratitude, about not dwelling on the past. He still sings, still dances, still shows up. And when he does, people remember why they loved him in the first place. June Squibb, 94 years old. June Squibb spent most of her career as a working actress nobody knew. She did Broadway, small TV roles, commercials for products you've forgotten. She worked steadily for over 50 years, but never became famous. She appeared in Scent of a Woman with Al Pacino, playing his niece, and nobody noticed. She was in About Schmidt with Jack Nicholson, playing his wife, and critics barely mentioned her. Then, in 2013, at age 84, she was nominated for an Academy Award for her role in Nebraska. Suddenly, the world discovered an actress who had been there all along. She played Kate Grant, the foul-mouthed, sharp-tongued wife of a man convinced he's won $1 million. Her performance was funny, heartbreaking, and completely real. She didn't win the Oscar. Lupita Nyong'o won that year for 12 Years a Slave, but the nomination changed everything. She didn't waste the opportunity. She started taking bigger roles, appearing in films and television shows that actually had budgets and marketing campaigns. She was in The Age of Adeline, playing Harrison Ford's mother. She was in Lady Bird, playing the protagonist's grandmother in a brief but memorable scene. In 2023, at age 94, she starred in an action comedy called Thelma, playing a grandmother who goes on a revenge mission after being scammed. The premise sounds ridiculous, but critics loved it. She did her own stunts. She rode a scooter through Los Angeles, argued with con artists, broke into buildings, and proved that age doesn't stop you if you refuse to stop yourself. The film was a modest hit, earning praise for treating elderly characters with respect instead of condescension. June represents something important. Not every actor peaks in their 20s. Not every career follows the same path. Some people wait decades for their moment, and when it comes, they're ready. She's been married once to Charles Kakatsakis for over 50 years until his death in 2001. She has no children. She's dedicated her life to acting, and at 94, she's finally getting the recognition she deserved all along. Mitzi Gaynor, 93 years old. Mitzi Gaynor starred in South Pacific in 1958. She was 27 years old, playing Nellie Forbush, a Navy nurse who falls in love with a French plantation owner during World War II. The movie was a massive hit, earning over $17 million at the box office, a huge sum in 1958. She could sing, dance, act, and charm an audience without effort. Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote the role for Mary Martin, who originated it on Broadway. But when the film was made, they chose Mitzi. She was born Francesca Marlene de Chania von Gerber in Chicago in 1931. Her father was a Hungarian musician. Her mother was a dancer. She started performing as a child, taking the stage name Mitzi Gaynor when she signed with 20th Century Fox at age 17. She appeared in a string of musicals throughout the 1950s, dancing alongside Gene Kelly in Less Girls and Donald O'Connor in There's No Business Like Show Business. But after South Pacific, her film career faded. Hollywood was changing. Musicals were dying. Rock and roll was replacing big orchestral numbers. By the 1960s, studios weren't making the kind of films Mitzi excelled in. She transitioned to television specials and live performances, spending decades touring, performing in Las Vegas, and building a career outside of movies. She married Jack Bean, a talent agent and producer, in 1954. They stayed married until his death in 2006, over 50 years together. She never had children. In interviews, she said she was too focused on her career, too busy performing to think about motherhood. She's still alive at 93, one of the last major musical stars from that golden era. She never won an Oscar, never became a household name beyond that one iconic role, but she worked for over 50 years, performing until she physically couldn't anymore. That's a different kind of success, the kind that doesn't get headlines but builds a life. Rita Moreno, 93 years old. Rita Moreno has an EGOT, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. She's one of only 19 people in history to win all four. She earned the Oscar in 1962 for West Side Story, playing Anita with so much fire and heartbreak that it became one of the greatest supporting performances in film history. She danced, she sang, she made you believe every word. And then, Hollywood didn't know what to do with her. She was Puerto Rican in an industry that only cast her as ethnic stereotypes. For years after that Oscar, she played maids, prostitutes, and gang members. She turned down roles that felt degrading, but that meant turning down work. She later said she almost quit acting entirely, frustrated by the racism and typecasting she faced. She spent years angry, depressed, wondering if the Oscar had been a curse instead of a blessing. But she fought back. She returned to Broadway, winning a Tony for the Ritz in 1975. She worked in television, earning Emmys for guest appearances and recurring roles. She appeared in The Electric Company from 1971 to 1977, teaching kids to read, using her fame to do something meaningful. She worked with Marlon Brando, with whom she had a passionate and destructive relationship that lasted 8 years. She's been open about how toxic it was, how he hurt her, how she couldn't leave until she finally did. She married Leonard Gordon, a doctor, in 1965. He managed her career, helped her rebuild her confidence, and stayed with her until his death in 2010. They had one daughter, Fernanda. She's spoken about the challenges of balancing career and motherhood, about feeling guilty for working, about the impossible expectations placed on women. Now, at 93, she's experiencing a third act. She's still here, still working, still proving that resilience outlasts glamour. She's a reminder that talent and determination can overcome even. James Hong, 95 years old. James Hong has over 650 credits on IMDb. That's not a typo. He's been working since the 1950s, appearing in everything from Blade Runner to Kung Fu Panda. He's played villains, sidekicks, wise old men, and everything in between. If you've watched movies or television in the past 70 years, you've seen James Hong. For most of his career, he wasn't a star. He was a character actor, often uncredited, playing small roles in bigger productions. Hollywood rarely gave Asian actors leading roles, so he took what he could get. He worked constantly, never complaining, never stopping. He appeared in Chinatown, playing Evelyn Mulwray's butler. He was in Big Trouble in Little China as the villainous sorcerer, David Lopan, one of his few leading roles. He did voice work, commercials, guest spots on every major TV show from the 1960s through the 2000s. Born in Minneapolis in 1929 to Chinese immigrants who ran a restaurant, Hong initially studied civil engineering at the University of Southern California before realizing his passion was performance. In 1949, he moved to Los Angeles and co-founded the East West Players, one of the first Asian American theater companies in the country. He spent decades fighting for better representation, often speaking out about the limited roles available to Asian actors while simultaneously taking whatever work he could find. In 2022, everything changed. He appeared in Everything Everywhere, all at once, playing Gong Gong, the grandfather in a film that became a cultural phenomenon. At 93, he walked red carpets, gave interviews, and experienced fame in a way he never had before. The Academy finally gave him an honorary award in 2022, recognizing 7 decades of work that had gone largely unnoticed. He stood on stage, tears in his eyes, and thanked everyone who had supported him through years of anonymity. At 95, he's still working, still showing up, still proof that a long career matters more than a short burst of fame. He's also proof that Hollywood can change even if it takes far too long. He's been married 3 times and has 2 children. He lives in Los Angeles, still taking small roles, still showing up on sets, still grateful for every opportunity. Mel Brooks. 98 years old, Mel Brooks won an Oscar, an Emmy, a Grammy, and 3 Tonys. He's one of the greatest comedy writers and directors in history. He made The Producers, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, Spaceballs. He married Anne Bancroft, one of the most talented actresses of her generation, and loved her until she died. He worked with Gene Wilder, Madeline Kahn, Harvey Korman, and created characters that still make people laugh decades later. But he's also a World War II veteran. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge, one of the deadliest battles in the European theater. He was a combat engineer, defusing landmines, clearing roads, watching friends die. He came home to a country that didn't talk about trauma the way we do now. Comedy became his way of surviving, his way of processing what he'd seen. Born Melvin Kaminsky in Brooklyn in 1926, he grew up poor in a Jewish family that struggled through the Depression. His father died when he was 2. His mother worked multiple jobs to keep the family afloat. Mel learned early that making people laugh was a form of power, a way to survive when everything else felt impossible. He started in television, writing for Sid Caesar's Your Show of Shows in the 1950s, alongside Carl Reiner, Neil Simon, and other future legends. He created the character of the 2,000-year-old man with Reiner, a comedy bit that became iconic. He moved into film in the 1960s, directing The Producers in 1968, a comedy about 2 men trying to create the worst Broadway show possible. The film was controversial. It featured songs like Springtime for Hitler, which made audiences uncomfortable even as they laughed. But Mel didn't care. He was a Jew who had fought Nazis, and he believed the best way to defeat them was through mockery. He won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, the only Oscar he ever won despite being nominated 3 times as a director. At 98, Mel is still sharp. He gives interviews, tells the same stories he's been telling for 60 years, and still makes people laugh. He lost Anne in 2005 to uterine cancer, and he's spoken openly about the loneliness that followed. He never remarried. In interviews, he talks about her constantly, about how much he misses her, about how hard it is to keep going without her. He's the last of a generation of Jewish comedians who turned pain into laughter, who built careers on wit instead of cruelty. He's seen the world change, seen comedy evolve, and never stopped believing that laughter is sacred. William Shatner, 93 years old. William Shatner is Captain Kirk. That's the first thing people think of, and it's not wrong. He played the role in Star Trek from 1966 to 1969, then in 7 films spanning 3 decades. He became an icon, a symbol of exploration and optimism in science fiction, a character who believed in diplomacy but wasn't afraid to throw a punch. But what people forget is how much he struggled before Star Trek. He was a Canadian stage actor working in Stratford, Ontario, performing Shakespeare with some of the best actors in the country. He moved to New York, did Broadway, struggled to make a living. When Star Trek came along, he saw it as a paycheck, nothing more. The show was canceled after 3 seasons due to low ratings. NBC didn't believe in it. Critics dismissed it as silly space nonsense, and when it ended, Shatner's career stalled. For years, he did commercials, guest appearances, stage productions, anything to pay the bills. He's spoken about living out of his truck for a period in the 1970s, so broke he couldn't afford an apartment. Then, Star Trek found new life in syndication. Fans who had missed it the first time discovered it on reruns. Conventions started. The movies followed. Suddenly, Shatner was famous again, this time for real. He returned as Kirk in Star Trek: The Motion Picture in 1979, then in 5 more films through 1994, but he also became a punchline. His dramatic pauses, his over-the-top delivery, his tendency to ham it up made him easy to mock. Saturday Night Live parodied him. Comedians imitated him. He leaned into it, understanding that being a joke was better than being forgotten. Then came Boston Legal in 2004. He played Denny Crane, a brilliant but unhinged lawyer, slowly losing his mind to Alzheimer's. The role showed his range, his willingness to make fun of himself, and his ability to deliver genuine emotion. He won 2 Emmys for the role, proving he could still act when given good material. In 2021, at age 90, he went to space. Not as Captain Kirk, but as William Shatner, a real man sitting in a Blue Origin capsule, staring at Earth from the edge of the atmosphere. He cried when he came back, overwhelmed by the fragility of it all. Jeff Bezos stood beside him, grinning, treating it like a publicity stunt. But Shatner's tears were real. He'd spent decades pretending to explore space. And finally, at 90, he actually did it. At 93, he's still working, still taking roles, still showing up at conventions. He's been married 4 times, has 3 children, and has lived a life most people can't even imagine. He's lived long enough to see science fiction become science fact, to see the world he imagined in the 1960s slowly become real. Robert Wagner, 94 years old, Robert Wagner was a leading man in the 1950s and 60s. Handsome, charming, the kind of actor who could play a hero or a rogue with equal ease. He starred in dozens of films, married Natalie Wood twice, and built a long career in television with Heart to Heart in the 1980s, playing a wealthy detective alongside Stephanie Powers. But his legacy is forever tied to one night in November 1981. Natalie Wood drowned off the coast of Catalina Island while on a boat trip with Wagner, Christopher Walken, and the boat's captain. The circumstances have never been fully explained. She was found in the water, wearing a nightgown and a down jacket. She had bruises on her body. The official cause of death was accidental drowning, but questions remain. Wagner was on the boat that night. He said he and Natalie argued, that she went to bed, that he assumed she was in her cabin when she wasn't. The captain, Dennis Davern, later claimed Wagner and Natalie had a fight, that Wagner smashed a wine bottle in a fit of rage, that there was more to the story than anyone admitted. The case was reopened in 2011 after Davern came forward with his claims. In 2018, investigators named Wagner a person of interest, meaning they wanted to speak with him about what happened. Wagner refused to cooperate. His lawyers said he had nothing new to add, that he'd told investigators everything he knew decades ago. Whether he knows more than he's said, or whether he's simply a man haunted by tragedy, we may never know. Natalie's death destroyed him. He's spoken about the guilt, the grief, the impossible burden of being suspected without being charged. He remarried actress Jill St. John in 1990, but the shadow of that night has never left him. At 94, Robert Wagner is still alive, still living with the weight of that night. He rarely gives interviews. He stays out of the public eye. He knows what people think, knows what they whisper, and he's never given them the answers they want. Julie Andrews, 89 years old. Julie Andrews is Mary Poppins and Maria von Trapp. She's one of the most beloved actresses in history, known for her voice, her elegance, and her ability to play characters who radiate kindness without being weak. She won an Oscar for Mary Poppins in 1965, was nominated for The Sound of Music the same year, and became the face of family entertainment. But her career has also been marked by loss. In the late 1990s, she underwent surgery to remove non-cancerous nodules from her vocal cords. The surgery was supposed to be routine, a simple procedure that would restore her voice. Instead, it went wrong. The surgeon damaged her vocal cords permanently, leaving her unable to sing the way she once did. For someone whose voice defined her career, it was devastating. She sued the doctors and hospital for medical malpractice and eventually settled out of court. But no amount of money could give her back what she'd lost. The 4-octave range, the clarity, the effortless beauty that made her voice legendary was gone. She kept working. She did voice acting, narration, and film roles that didn't require singing. She appeared in The Princess Diaries alongside Anne Hathaway, playing a queen who teaches her granddaughter how to be royalty. She wrote children's books with her daughter Emma, creating stories about a young girl navigating the world. She directed stage productions, using her knowledge of performance to guide others. She's been married twice. Her first marriage to Tony Walton, a set designer, ended in divorce. Her second marriage to Blake Edwards, the director of the Pink Panther films, lasted until his death in 2010. They collaborated on several films together, including Victor Victoria, which earned her another Oscar nomination. At 89, she's proof that identity doesn't have to be tied to a single talent. She lost her voice but didn't lose herself. She adapted, evolved, and found new ways to create. It's the kind of resilience that doesn't get enough attention because it's not dramatic. It's just survival. These 10 actors carry something irreplaceable. They remember a Hollywood that no longer exists. They worked with people who are now history. Marlon Brando, Katharine Hepburn, James Dean, Marilyn Monroe. They lived through the collapse of the studio system, the rise of television, the birth of blockbusters, and the streaming revolution. Most importantly, they're still here. Not as myths, not as legends frozen in time, but as real people who got old, who kept working or stopped working, who made mistakes and kept going anyway. Some of them will be gone by the time you watch this. That's the nature of age. But for now, they're still with us, still carrying stories that will die with them. If you've made it this far, drop a comment with which of these actors surprised you most. And if you want more deep dives into Hollywood history, subscribe. There's always more to uncover.